This is just a brief tutorial on the course. For most of the course materials, you'll be turning in your assignments using this website. So it's thinkinfo.net/student. When you arrive at this website, it's just a basic page. But before I show you where we turn everything in, I just want to show you at the bottom where it says course materials. If you click on our course number, IT203, the very first link at the top is the syllabus. When you click on the syllabus, you can download a copy of the syllabus. So you can see here a copy of the syllabus. This is what we'll be doing throughout the semester. The most important part of the syllabus, as in any other class, is going to be our schedule. So you can see here, starting with Unit 1, it'll tell you what all of the assignments are that we'll be working on throughout the semester. So for example, in Unit 1, we have 4 lab assignments. Each one is worth 1% of your final grade. There's also a homework assignment worth 2% of your final grade. So each unit will tell you what we're going to be covering in class that week. So you'll see it up here at the top. It'll tell you which chapter in the textbook that you should be reading. And you can see here in Unit 2, there's 2 labs, each worth 2%. And it's important to stay cognizant of those weights. Different assignments are worth different amounts. So far, they're all kind of worth the same, but when we get down to the later weeks, for example, if we get to week 6, notice how lab 6.1 is worth 3% of your grade, but lab 6.2 is only worth 1% of your grade. So it's important to remember what those weights are. Certain weeks there'll be a quiz, so you'll see that on the schedule. So for example, in week 6 is quiz number 5, which is worth 1% of your final grade. There are 9 quizzes, so the quizzes are worth 9% of your final grade. In fact, I'll show you the full rubric. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see the grading rubric. So the labs altogether are 36% of your grade. Assignments are 18%, quizzes 9%, course project is 17%, and the final exam is 20%. Please note there is no midterm in this class, only a final exam for a total of 100%. So that means the biggest, most important thing in this class is to do the labs. The second most important thing is to take the final exam and to do your assignments. And then you have the quizzes and the course project. Now the course project is worth 17% of your grade. It's a pretty good chunk. And you do have to be in class to complete the course project. We'll have a few weeks near the end of the quarter to do that. The quizzes you must complete in class. So quizzes are administered during class time at the school. There are no makeups for the quizzes. So each quiz is worth about 1% of your grade. So if you miss all 9 quizzes that are administered in class, your grade would drop almost a full letter grade. If you just missed 1 or 2 quizzes, not a big deal. It won't impact your grade too much. But if you miss a bunch of them, then for sure it's going to have an impact on your grade. And we will be going over the quizzes and the assignments in class, so it's important to be in class. So that's the grading rubric. The other thing I wanted to show you here too, as you look at each week, you'll notice that there are Group A labs and there are Group B labs. So most weeks we have 2 labs. In the first week we have 4, but in most weeks we have at least 2. The Group A labs are for the Westlake case study in your textbook, and that's going to be in the first textbook that we use. The second textbook we only use for some of the security stuff towards the end of the course in units 8 and 9. But the practical sequel book we use throughout the entire course. And there are 2 case studies in there primarily that we use for the labs. The one is the Westlake Hospital, which is a basic database for a research study for a hospital. So that's going to be the first labs. And then all of the Group B labs are Granfield College, which is a basic database for a college to track software that's used throughout the college. Again, it's a pretty basic database, but we use that as an example. Now, all the Westlake database examples and all the Westlake case studies that we do in the Group A labs are guided. We do those together. The book has pretty good instructions on how to do those labs. I have YouTube videos that will walk you through a lot of those labs. So those are the Group A's. So the Group A assignments or labs are very guided. They're going to show you how to do things. And the idea is to learn how to do things with the Group A labs. And in the Group B labs, you're going to take what you've learned and you're going to do it on your own. So the Group B labs, you don't need somebody to guide you through. You're going to do those mostly on your own. I should also mention that the Group B labs should be very different from each other. All of you are going to do different diagrams. You're going to have different table names and databases and all sorts of things. It's going to be completely different. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So just because one person does it one way and somebody else does it another way doesn't make it necessarily right or wrong. It's just different, and that's to be expected. So there should be quite a bit of variety between your Group B submissions. Your Group A submissions are all going to be basically the same because we're going to do those together, and they are very guided. One thing you'll notice, however, is once we get closer to the end of the course, as the labs get harder, the percentage on the Group B labs tends to drop a little bit. So it weighs less heavily on your grade, the Group B labs. So if you get stuck on a Group B lab or you're not sure or something like that, just do what you can. Do your best. Assuming you get an 80% on the lab, it's really not a huge impact on your grade as we get later in the semester. So don't panic if you are confused. It's okay to be confused or to not get things right in those Group B labs. The Group A labs, however, since we're doing them together, they should be relatively easy for you to stay on target with those and to be able to complete those satisfactorily. So that's the syllabus. I encourage you to download a copy of the syllabus and keep a copy and review it. You'll also notice that each week, so for each unit, I have in here some links. So for example, for Unit 1 assignment, this is where you'll click to get the assignment. So for example, for Unit 1, I'm going to ask you to answer these 4 questions. You're going to take these 4 questions. You're going to put them into a Word document. You're going to answer all 4, and then you're going to turn in the assignment. And that's pretty much the same thing each week. So each week when you see an assignment, it's some questions. You're going to fill out some answers, and you're going to turn in or submit your answers. Same thing for the labs. So you'll see some information here for the labs. So for example, here is Unit 1, Lab 1, which just takes you to my YouTube video. If when you see a lab assignment, if it's a link, if there's no link, that means you can do the lab directly from the book. So this is the ebook, and I encourage you to use the ebook. It's actually a little bit easier to use the ebook for these labs. I know most people don't like the ebooks, but this one works pretty well. So there is a pre-lab, which is just how to set up your virtual machine, but I have a YouTube video that walks through that. And then when you click on the second link down here, and I know they both have the same name, but you want to go to number 2. So section 2 is where you're going to start the labs. And when you click the little arrow to the right, you'll see Lab 1, Lab 2, Lab 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. So for example, for Lab 1, if I click that little arrow, there's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. And I could go back and I could see all the labs again. And then I could click on Lab 3 and I could see 3.1 and 3.2 and so forth. So if I go to Lab 1 and I click on the header for Lab 1, these are the instructions for Lab 1. And it'll walk you through how to do something. In my instructions, if all you see is Lab 2.1 or something like that, that means just use the book to complete the lab. Follow the instructions in the book and turn in what the book tells you to turn in. But when there's a link, follow the instructions on the link instead. So for example, for Unit 2, Lab 2.1, if you click on my link, I have instructions. And you're going to turn in what I ask for here rather than what you see in the book. The reason for this is the book has some sections that have typos, and rather than have you struggle through the typos, I give you some of the correct stuff here. I don't always do that. You know, some of them, the typos aren't a major problem, and you can kind of work through them. But for certain labs, if they didn't work or if they don't work well, I kind of tweak them a little bit for our class. So you'll see a link to go to my instructions instead. So make sure you follow along in this web page to make sure you know what you should be doing for each of these assignments. You'll also notice in here I give you the lecture material. So I use PowerPoints in class, and rather than having to take notes, I would encourage you to download a copy of the PowerPoint. And some students I will see print the PowerPoints and make their notes right on the printouts. If you are going to print out the PowerPoint, my recommendation when you print it out is to print more than 1 slide per page. So you can fit a good 6 slides per page and save a lot of paper that way. So if you are going to print them out, do it that way. You can also take notes right in PowerPoint, or you can just keep them for yourself as a reference and so forth and so on. So by all means, feel free to use those. All right. When you get to the very bottom down here, you'll see that there is a project. So when we do the project, this is where you'll go to access the information for the project, which will be towards the end of the course. All right, so now that you know where the assignments are and what you're going to be doing for the assignments, how do you turn them in? And that's back here on the home page. So when you go to thinkinfo.net/student, and from here you can get to everything I showed you by clicking on the IT203 link. Let's say I want to turn in an assignment for IT203. I'm going to type in IT203. Case sensitive does matter, so it has to be capital I, capital T, 203. Then you're going to give the assignment a label. I'm going to put assignment 3. Fill in my name. So Green Brian is my name. Now for the PIN number, you can make this up. It can be anything you want, or you can leave it blank. It doesn't matter. So it can be blank. You can make something up. Now I'll tell you that if you leave it blank, somebody else could potentially view your assignment submissions. So if you want to keep them private, make sure you use a PIN and use a consistent PIN. And I'll show you why in just a second. So now I'm going to upload an assignment. I called mine a3.txt. It doesn't matter what you call the file name. It'll still work, as long as it's within reason, of course. So I'm going to click on Submit Assignment. I don't need to update that. And you can see it's now submitting a3.txt. Oops. Just waiting for the page to load. And you can see it's still loading up here. It takes a second. Okay, so you can see the assignment has been submitted. So I submitted some assignments previously. So it says here pending. There's the date and time that I submitted it. So I can see all of my previous assignments that I submitted and the current one that I just submitted. Now, just so you can see, if you type the wrong information, so I'm going to go in here and put assignment number 4, for example. So this time, I'm going to put the wrong PIN number in. So I'm just going to put a different PIN number, not necessarily wrong. I'm just going to put a different PIN number, and I'm going to hit Submit Assignment. Now, watch what happens here. So it still has submitted the assignment, even though I used a different PIN, but it tells me that there are 3 records for a different PIN number. So it knows that I have different assignments submitted with different PINs. So if you ever see this warning show up, that means that you used a different PIN and you need to have me reset your PIN. That's fine. Just let me know what you want me to set your PIN to, and I can set it for all of your assignments. Now, I want to show you something else. So let's say you emailed me and you had me reset the PIN. So I'm going to go in here and just to check to see what assignments I've turned in. So if I just put in my name and my PIN, now notice I'm not putting a label in, so because I'm not uploading an assignment, and I did not browse to a file. I'm just going to leave that blank. If I click Submit Assignment, it still works. It just doesn't submit anything. It says here, assignment name must be complete, nothing submitted, but that's okay. I didn't want to submit anything. But if I look down here at the bottom, it'll show me the status of all of my previously submitted assignments. So you can always check to see what you've already turned in. So you don't have to email me and say, Brian, I don't know what I'm missing or what assignments do I need to turn in. You can always just go and look here to see what assignments I have. And it'll also tell you which ones are in the grade book. So when it shows graded here, that means that it's been entered into your official grade book, and you can go look at the grade. I do not show the grades here for FERPA reasons. And for security, I prefer not to display them here. So instead, you'll find those in the normal methods you would check your grades. But at least you can go in and you can see that I've actually graded something, and you'll know what you have and have not turned in. I typically grade on Thursdays and Sundays. So you should see grades show up usually on Thursdays and Sundays. You'll see them pop up in here as graded, and you'll see them in the official grade book. So if you have any questions throughout the semester, please let me know. And keep this video handy in case you have any questions as you go through the semester.